Hello everyone, I am PURURAJ Singh Solanki and I have secured All India Rank 21 in UPSC Civil Service Examination this year. This was my second attempt and my optional subject is chemistry. I have been associated with Vajiram and Ravi through their online coaching interaction in the 2021-22 batch, and later on I also took up their essay test series program. Today I am here to explain a bit about this arduous examination which requires all our efforts in order to clear this. As you might be aware that this examination has 3 stages: prelims, mains and interview. And today we will be specifically focusing on the first and most crucial aspect of this examination, that is the preliminary examination. I will be sharing a couple of my learnings which I have gathered over the last 3 years that comprises my 2 attempts in this examination. So let's get into it. So now I will be talking about my paper analysis approach, because this approach helped me immensely in order to adequately analyze and interpret the learnings from various test series which I took. This aspect is very important in our preparation, because if we are only giving tests, say 30 to 40 to 50 tests, it will actually not matter in the long run if we are not able to analyze them adequately. So let's begin. First of all, I would like to emphasize that I undertook the prelims examination in iterations. For instance, in the first iteration, I used to solve those questions which I was absolutely sure about. In the second iteration, I used to solve those questions in which I have eliminated two of the options and I am stuck on other 2 options. And in the third iteration, I used to solve some unknown questions or those questions in which I had a bit of doubt, a bit of gut feeling, so to say. So we have 3 types of questions in the paper, and I would like to emphasize first that this is analysis based on my own approach, and the candidates may take any other approach if they want. Because this approach actually worked for me, that is why I am emphasizing on this. So there are 3 types of questions as per my understanding. First are those questions which we are absolutely sure about. I call them sure shot questions. Second are those questions where we have eliminated 2 options. I call them 50-50. And then lastly are those questions which we have to sort of take a guess, take an intelligent guess, or where we have a gut feeling. So I call them 3 or gut questions. 3 or gut means that we have eliminated at least 1 option. So I undertook my paper in these stages, 3 iterations. Now our approach should be that we have to get 100% of these questions correct, because these are sure shot questions. So ideally we should have an accuracy of 100% in these questions. But realistically speaking, we might get an accuracy of 90 to 95% in these questions. Regarding these 2 questions, as far as the probability is concerned, we should at least have a 50% probability in these questions, correct probability, and in these questions approximately 40% probability should be there. So I used to have an Excel sheet regarding this, and I used to map my entire paper in these 3 dimensions. I used to divide them in these 3 types of questions, and I used to check whether I am getting the desired probabilities or not. So as far as my second attempt is concerned, I used to get probabilities like in these I used to get 85% approximately. Here I used to get around 54%, and similarly here also I used to get 54%. If I can tell you the overall accuracy with which I solved the entire paper, on an average, as far as the prelims test series was concerned, I used to get a final probability of roughly 73%. Now I can say this with conviction that during the actual examination, we are a bit more involved in the paper, and we are very much accurate on our stance. So I can say that this accuracy gradually increases in the final examination. So based on my own assessment, during my first two attempts, this probability increased to 78%, and in the second attempt it was around 76%. So I can say that in the final examination, we are a bit more cautious about our choices, and we mark only those questions where we are absolutely sure or where we have a strong gut feeling. That is the reason why this probability actually increases. And some of my friends usually get around 80% accuracy, and even though they attempt a bit lower questions, say around 60 to 70 questions, they are still able to pass the examination with flying colors. So this is one of the strategy. Now, how do we actually analyze what type of mistakes we are making? So in all these three categories, we still have two types of subcategories. For instance, in these type of questions, we have a conceptual part and a factual part. So we have conceptual questions and we have factual questions. This subcategorization applies to this category as well as this category. So ideally speaking, we should be able to get all conceptual questions correct, and whatever mistakes if we are making should be actually factual in nature, because if there is a conceptual wrong on our part, that is a bigger problem compared to a factual question, because this we can understand directly and we can grasp from any particular source. But correcting this requires a lot more time as compared to this. So I used to ensure that my conceptual questions which I am getting wrong are minimized as far as I approach more and more prelims related test series. And this number actually came down, which I will be sharing on my Telegram channel. So these factual questions, I also used to analyze what percentage of the wrong questions are factual in nature. So ideally speaking, if I am making a particular statement wrong, particular question wrong, it should be factual in nature, as I have explained earlier. So this percentage should actually be 100% ideally. And for my case, which I analyzed later, it was around 83%, which means 17% of the questions which I was attempting, which I got wrong, were conceptual in nature. And this number should be actually increased if you are analyzing in this particular sense, and this should be minimized. Lastly, yes, this I have talked about. Yes, so a question arises as to how many questions we should actually attempt in the final paper, and I can share my own experience regarding this. Based on this accuracy level, which I took from the prelims test series, and I was sure that my accuracy will actually increase in the actual attempt because I am more vigilant in the particular paper. I attempted around 69 questions in my first attempt and displayed an accuracy of 78%, and I was able to pass the prelims examination with flying colors. In the second attempt, I was a bit more confident because this was my second attempt and I had a good coverage of syllabus as well. So I was able to attempt 79 questions, and with an accuracy of 76%, I was again able to pass with flying colors. Here I scored a total of, if I can recall, 97 marks. Finally, approximately 97 marks. And here I scored a total of 107 marks. If you look at the cutoff for the prelims this year, this is actually 25 plus 7, which is 32 marks extra than the prelims cutoff, which is phenomenal if I say. So the overall strategy which I adopted for this scenario is in front of you, and I hope that this benefits you in the long run. I will be sharing the Excel sheet which I made for this analysis, so as to make this process a bit easier for you, and you may adopt this strategy, and I hope that this strategy actually helps you in passing the prelims examination. Now, if I may cover a bit of CSET portion as well, because we have been listening to this that from the past 2-3 years, the CSET level has been continuously increasing. And if we consider the 2023 paper, we see that there were too many questions in the numerical part which were very calculation heavy and which required us to spend actually more than 3 to 4 minutes. And we do not have that kind of time luxury in the actual paper. So I believe that I may shed some light over how to actually attempt the CSAT paper. So CSAT paper, we have two types of questions. First are the comprehension based questions, and second are the mathematical aspect of the numerical questions. If we consider the weightage of these two aspects, I can see that there were 27 questions out of 80 which were comprehension in the last 2 years, and there were 53 questions from the numerical part. If I can confirm these numbers, yes, these are correct. So in the first attempt, I did not actually prepare very much regarding the CSAT paper, and I was confident that this part I am very strong in. But in the actual examination, I could gauge that this portion was actually taking a bit of time. But still, I was able to pass with a healthy margin from the cutoff of 66.6 marks. So here in the first attempt, I am trying to prove an important point here. That is why I am using my actual numbers. So in the first attempt, I attempted 11 questions in this part out of 27 and attempted 38 questions from this part. And I was able to get a score of 107. In the second attempt, I attempted 18 questions in the comprehension part and 31 questions in this part, and I was able to get a score of 97. So if we look at the total number of questions attempted, in this attempt I attempted 49 questions, and the number is same for both attempts. So a question also arises as to how many questions we should actually attempt in the CSAT paper, because it is not actually feasible to attempt 80 questions in 2 hours. And if someone has attempted those many questions, then his accuracy will fall down drastically. So a safe margin, I should say, would be around 50 to 60 questions. This is actually a very safe margin of questions to attempt, and we can have a very high accuracy in these questions. Now, how to divide this? So as I was talking about, in the first attempt, I could attempt a higher number of numericals compared to the comprehension part. This was because the numericals were comparatively easier as compared to second attempt, that is 2023, and because I did not give adequate time to comprehension part. However, in the second attempt, as you might notice, almost 7 questions I attempted more in the comprehension part, and this shift from not attempting more number of numericals to attempting a more number of comprehension questions, I took this shift right in the middle of paper based on the understanding that the numericals are getting a bit lengthy. And this conscious choice you will have to make for yourself in the actual examination, because I could foresee that the numericals are taking more than 3 to 4 minutes, which is actually very harmful in the long run. So I cut down on the attempts of numericals and I increased the number of comprehension questions. This was actually helpful because in the numericals part, my accuracy was a bit low in this attempt. If I talk about this 18 questions, I got only one incorrect. But if I talk about this 31 questions, I got 7 of them wrong. So if I consider that if I would have attempted more number of questions in numerical part, in the hurry of the examination and in the intense pressure that we are supposed to be in, I would have attempted even more wrong questions had I not shifted to this part. And here my accuracy is very high. As you may see that I have attempted 17 out of 18 right. So this might be an intelligent strategy to actually cover both the aspects. One thing I wish to highlight here is that even if someone says that I will be attempting only numericals or only comprehension questions, they are actually not understanding this paper in a very right way, because we cannot pass by simply attempting comprehension questions nor by simply attempting numerical questions, because if we start attempting these only, then our time is very limited, only 2 hours, and this will actually take a lot of time. And if we only attempt comprehension questions, I am sure that we cannot get 27 out of 27 right, because there are certain almost 5 to 6 questions which are designed in such a way that the candidate will mark the wrong option, because the English of those particular options is very, very close to each other. Interpretation is very close to each other. So even if we get an accuracy of this 22 questions, we will still not be able to clear the examination. So we will have to take a judicial mix of both the parts. Now I come to the aspect as to how we should cover the CSAT portion for this examination. Because we have a very limited time, we have to devolve that time to GS as well, and we have to spare some time for the CSAT portion as well. And since the preliminary examination is already approaching, it's almost 2 weeks away, I believe that this is right time that we spend some time for the CSAT part, especially if you are not from the technical background or say engineering background. So I would say that you first go through the past 3 previous year questions, not as such in a straightforward manner. You should actually solve them in the 2-hour time duration, and you should gauge whether you are getting a score of, I'll move forward from this one. You are actually getting a score of 95 plus, preferably 100 plus. 100 is a good score in all 3 examinations, that is 2021, 22 and 23. This will actually boost your confidence as well, and you should go in the reverse direction, because this was the toughest paper. You should go in reverse, and this will actually boost your confidence if you are getting these scores. If you are not getting these scores and you are coming a bit close to the cutoff, say between 60 to 70 marks, this should actually be a warning bell for you. You should start focusing on the easier aspects of the syllabus. For instance, there are questions in the numerical part related to time and distance, or aspects related to water and mirror images, which are not very frequent, but still I am telling. And other topics based on your convenience, which you find a bit easy. The aspects which I find the non-engineering background students, they find a bit harder are series, then PNC, permutation combination, and some questions related to, at times there are questions related to percentages as well, where they make silly mistakes due to lack of practice. So this list you may make for yourself, and you can understand which are the portions which you have a good command upon and which are the questions where you need to work more. So if you identify a particular portion, let's say series, you pick up the series related questions, PYQs from the last 10 to 15 years, and you start solving them. You will find that if you are able to solve them adequately and within the time limit of say 2 to 3 minutes. Please do not extend this, because in the actual examination, if you take, let's say you are attempting 50 questions in totality, 20 comprehension and 30 numerical. If you say give 40 minutes to this comprehension, then you are left with approximately 80 minutes for this numerical part, and 80 minutes for 30 question translates to around 2 to 3 minutes. This is from where this time limit comes from. So I suggest that you please solve these questions in PYQ type format in a time bound manner, and see for yourself which are the topics which you find easier and which you find difficult. Regarding the comprehension aspect, if you are reading the newspaper continuously, consistently for a year, and you are reading the editorials adequately, I think that you might not have very much problem in understanding and comprehending the paragraphs given and making suitable inferences from those paragraphs. So even if you have a problem, you please refer the previous year questions of last 10 years minimum, based on the time available to you at this crucial juncture, and you analyze those questions and get those questions right in the first place. This will actually boost your confidence and you will be feeling much more confident for the CSAT examination. This is regarding the CSAT part, which I think I have covered sufficiently, and these were some of the learnings which I also got from the 2 attempts that I made. Next aspect which I will be highlighting is that how do we actually consolidate the syllabus in the last 2 weeks, because we have too many things to cover right now. We have the current affairs magazines from various coachings, be it anywhere. We have the GS notes that we have prepared throughout our preparation. So I believe that this is the right time that you take the conscious call of revising the syllabus for at least 2 to 3 times. Now this might be a daunting task for many of us. So the approach here is, how do we actually revise? For revision, I suggest that you start making a list. If you have seen the syllabus of the prelims examination, they have listed 7 portions. One is history, polity, environment, science and tech, etc. They have listed some 6 to 7 portions, but they have not actually explained what's inside them. So you form a note below these sections as to which topics they actually constitute. For instance, if this is polity, you form the first topic, say fundamental rights and directive principle. Now to streamline your revision in the last 2 weeks, you write beside it as to from where you will actually revise this topic for these 2-3 iterations. So as far as my personal case is concerned, I used to revise fundamental rights and DPSP from my notes which I had prepared from the Vajiram and Ravi coaching material and the class notes. So I used to write VR here. And if I found that there is a current affair specific dimension to it, I would write CA and the source associated with that particular current affair. Next, in polity, I would write union executive. Then I would list out the source. For instance, I had Vajiram and Ravi notes by Sarthik sir, which were very much prelims oriented. So I used to write that, followed by some current affair portion, and I used to mention the source. Then I used to write judiciary and related sources. So in this way, you will be able to see that if I need to revise this syllabus, I have a very limited sources, specified sources for a specified topic, so that I do not run behind different things at the last juncture. Similar things can be done for, say, environment. In environment, you will have a bit more of current affair dimension, because especially in environment, IER, Then society you have schemes related topics. So schemes you may cover from any current affair compilation that you have, or your class notes from any coaching. Then and this list you will form for each of the subjects, and you will find that at the end of making this list you will actually be able to see that your syllabus will actually be covered in a very concise form, in a very streamlined manner, in short span of time, and you will be able to revise it for a minimum of 2 to 3 times in this 15 days. If you do not form this type of list, you will actually be very confused as to which topic I pick up in the final moments and which topic I neglect in the final moments. And this is a make or break situation as far as the Prelims 2024 is concerned. So you should be very careful about this aspect. I hope that this session has been a very fruitful one for the viewers, and I believe that this session has helped you to understand various dimensions of prelims preparation, how to attempt the test series, and tackling the CSAT portion. Thank you very much.